Today's video is brought to you by the good people over at patriotpost.us. They are an excellent source of news, information, op-eds, and all that good stuff, and a link for them will be in the description box. So when you head over there and subscribe, tell them that ABL sent you. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the tragedy that could have been a much worse tragedy in White Settlement, Texas. There was a church shooting that happened. 2 parishioners were killed. The shooter was killed, and there's a whole lot to really talk about in this situation, a whole lot to get through. So I'm gonna start from the very top. Now, like I said, the shooting was in a place called White Settlement, Texas. I got to address that right quick. It's kind of a silly topic, but I got to talk about it. People are saying, why is it called White Settlement? That's a racist name. The name White Settlement came from natives in 1840 when they named it, because there were white people that had settled there. Very simple. White folks in a settlement, White Settlement from the natives. Now, if you want to change that name, talk to the natives that named it, but I digress. That is the whole reason why it's named White Settlement. This place is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, more specifically to the west of Fort Worth. It's like right there, basically in the Fort Worth metro area. But we'll move right along. Now, there's a church that had over 200 parishioners in there waiting on the Sunday morning church service. A guy comes in. He looks very suspicious of people. He has on a hoodie. As far as his race, I can't really tell. Some are saying that he's black, but that's not really been confirmed. It's really honestly hard to tell because the video was not, super clear from the distance that it was shot. And by the way, I cannot play that video here. I'm sorry. YouTube will strike this video down if I played the video, but I'll describe it to you and you'll be able to really understand what's going on. Now, like I said, the person was suspicious. They got up to talk to somebody that's right there. I'm not really sure who that was, but they're talking, and all of a sudden, the guy reveals a shotgun. It might have been a sawed-off. I couldn't really tell. Like, again, the video was kind of grainy, but it was a shotgun. I could tell from how it sounded and how his body moved with the recoil of the weapon. So he pulls out the shotgun. He shoots the man he's talking to, shoots somebody else. Now, unfortunately, those 2 individuals pass away. I think one person died right there on the scene, and then someone else died later in the ambulance or the hospital. Again, a tragedy, very unfortunate. However, this situation was cut short. Jack Wilson, who is the owner of a firearms training school, and if I could find a link to that school, I'll place it in the box. From about 30 yards away, he pulls his weapon, which was a 6-hour P229 357, shoots him once, bangs him right in the head. He's dead right there on the spot. I mean, fantastic marksmanship. And not only did my man Jack Wilson, the hero, come out and do that, there were also at least 4, 5, maybe even as many as 7 people total that had their weapons out, drawn, ready to go ahead and shoot the shooter. Matter of fact, I'm reading in certain places that Jack Wilson shot the man at the same time somebody else with their weapon shot him. So this was a tragedy. 2 people passed away, and rest in peace. My prayers go out to their family, but it could have been much worse. The pastor himself of their church said that it could have been much worse.
We lost 2 great men today, but it could have been a lot worse. And I'm thankful that our government has allowed us the opportunity to protect ourselves.
Now, some may be asking, how were there so many people in the church that had their weapon and were able to draw it and, go towards the shooter? Well, there was a law passed in Texas recently that allows for that to happen. You're able to arm yourself in a place of worship. Now, some people say that's not a good thing and encourages violence. I think a guy that we all know said something about it. Check this out.
And the second one is on dealing with firearms. It is irrational, with all due respect to the governor of Texas, irrational what they're doing. On the very day you see a mass shooting, I guess the numbers now, I was on a plane the last 2.5 hours, they got up to 5 killed. And we're talking about loosening access to have guns, be able to take them into places of worship, store them in school. I mean, it's just absolutely irrational. It's totally irrational.
Now, that clip did not age too well. Obviously, the right of Texans to bear arms inside of a church worked. Some may try to spin this whole thing as, oh, there was an armed guard who was trained and he shot the shooter and that's why the threat ended. Well, that's not really true. Jack Wilson, who I talked about earlier, the firearms instructor, the guy who shot the shooter and probably shot him with somebody else at the same time, he was not a paid guard. He was a church member that volunteered to help with securing the church. Okay, that's very simple. It may have been after this whole law passed and, they come and say, all right, we need to, protect the church, that and the third. He says, okay, hey, I'm a firearms instructor. I'm accurate with my gun, with my 6 Sauer. I'll help. And that's what he did. Matter of fact, I think one of the men that got shot first tried to get his gun, but unfortunately the guy had a drop on him and it wasn't enough time for him to get his gun out. But Jack Wilson was far enough away to get his gun out in the threat. With the help of other parishioners, the threat was ended and the church shooting did not get out of control. It could have been like, Dillon Roof, South Carolina, where he's just shooting indiscriminately and nobody stopping them because there's no defense. There's nobody armed inside the church. Now, I'm not trying to blame the parishioners for losing their life against a crazy madman with a weapon. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to say if people are allowed to protect themselves appropriately, then these incidences of church shootings either would not happen or would be much less bad as it has been. Very simple. Not only in church, but other places, schools, mosques, synagogues. I think there was a stabbing at somebody's home. We need to protect ourselves in places of worship and everywhere else because these people exist. They said the guy, he had a history of, criminality. He had roots in the area, but he probably was transient, homeless, could have been on drugs. These people exist in the world. Just like my man Jack Wilson said, I think it might have been on this Facebook page, evil exists in the world and you got to take it out. That's just what it is. Okay. You're not safe everywhere when you're not able to protect yourself. So that's pretty much the long and short of that. At the end of the day, as I close, rest in peace to those that pass away. But I want to thank everybody in that church that was able to have their weapon. Jack Wilson and the other maybe 6 parishioners that had the weapon. Maybe there were some more that didn't have to actually get up from the church pew because it was handled so quickly by the man that was right there with his weapon. I encourage everybody to exercise your Second Amendment right. Do not let them take your guns away, okay? Because in that situation, if it were not for the church members, not armed security guards that were paid, not police officers that are paid by the government, armed members of the church, if it were not for them, that would have been a much worse tragedy, okay? It's very simple. In Virginia, they're trying to take guns away. They're trying to have you register guns, is that, and the third. Don't let it happen because once the guns are taken away, who's going to be there to protect you? The police can't be your bodyguards. The police can't be in your house at night. They can't be everywhere all the time. They usually come after a situation unfolds. You want to have the best chance to survive an altercation like what happened at the White Settlement Church. And I got to add one last thing here. The media, I think, will drop this story pretty soon because the narratives they want to push don't really exist in this situation. They want to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be able to have guns in a place of worship because that's not really going to help. You got to have police officers or something like that. You got to get rid of the guns, all these assault weapons, automatic, fully machine guns, AR-15s. Well, the guy had what appeared to be a sawed-off shotgun, pulled it out of his jacket and started shooting. So that's not, an AR-15 or some kind of semi-auto. That's not that. Okay. And then the church members arming themselves is what stopped it. Literally, good guys, plural, with guns stopped a bad guy with a gun. That actually happened. They want to say, oh, that never really happens. That's not really a real thing. Obviously, it did happen. When you want to protect your life and the lives of others and the lives of your church members and the church itself, you'll rise to the call of duty when the time calls for it. Very simple. I think people should get more trained with firearms, become more comfortable with them, and not fear them. Don't let the mainstream media or the left or anybody else tell you that owning a firearm is a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's an American thing. Criminals, people that want to do harm, are going to exist, and they're going to use whatever they have available. Like I said, there was a stabbing incident at Rabbi's house. People getting smacked and beat up, killed, all kind of stuff. Protect yourself. Don't let the government take your means of protection from you. That is your inalienable right. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? Do you agree with me that the shooting would have been much worse at the church in White Settlement if not for the armed churchgoers? If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Or do you think that I'm incorrect, that the church members should not have been able to be armed? Do you think that Joe Biden is correct, that, oh, it's a silly thing, it's a ridiculous thing that church members shouldn't be armed? You shouldn't be able to have guns in the church. If that's your viewpoint, let me know why in the comments below. Some are going to say you should not have to arm yourself in the church, and you're right. You should not have to, but we live in the world in which we live in. What are you really going to do about it? Either you're going to wish for a time that does not exist and continue to leave yourself wide open to those that do exist right now in the time that is reality, or you're going to be prepared for the world in which we live. We all want utopia. We all want peace. But until we achieve that, you got to be ready to take evil out. That's what Jack Wilson did. That's what the other church parishioners either did or were prepared to do. You got to be ready. And if you're not, it's not going to go well for you in the real world that exists outside of your fantasy in your mind. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.